Hello everyone, this video lecture is going to cover this exercise in Learning Objective 2 and also Learning Objective 3. So let's take a look at this particular example. So Celery Industries, a small family-run manufacturer, has adopted an ABC system. The following manufacturing activities, indirect manufacturing costs, and the usage of cost drivers have been estimated for the year. Alright, so we have three activities. Machine setup, machining, and quality control. And we have estimate total manufacturing overhead cost. And also we have given cost drivers as well as their estimated total usage. So for instance, let me take a look at machining. Machining, the estimated total manufacturing overhead cost is $720,000, and the cost driver is machine hours. And estimated total machine hours is 4,800 machine hours. So during May, John and Allison Celery machined and assembled job 557, and John worked a total of 12 hours on the job, and while Allison worked 4 hours on the job. The John is paid a $25 per hour wage rate, while Allison is paid $28 per hour because of her additional experience level. Direct materials requisitioned for job 557 totaled 1,250. The following additional information was collected on job 557. The job required 2 machine setups and 4 machine hours and 3 quality control tests. So question 1, compute the activity cost allocation rates for the year. Number 2, complete the following job cost record for job 557. Okay, so we have 2 questions here and this problem. So first of all, we need to compute the activity cost allocation rates for the year. So there are 3 activities, and we have their estimated costs as well as estimated total usages of cost drivers. So all we have to do is we're going to list all 3 activities separately: machine setup, machining, and quality control. Then we divide each overhead cost by the corresponding usage of cost driver. Okay. So for machine setup, we can divide 159,500 by 2,900 setups. So then we can find out per setup how much is the cost. For machining, we can divide the cost by machine hours. So we're going to get, okay, per machine hour, how much is the cost. And the quality control, we can figure out for every test run and how much is the cost. So that's part 1 here. So therefore, if you set up a calculations in that way, you have 3 activities. Then you divide each cost by the usage of cost driver. So the result is for each activity, I can have predetermined activity cost allocation base rate. So there are 3 activities. Therefore, we have 3 activity cost allocation base rates. So keep one thing in mind: the difference between the normal, the regular job costing and activity-based costing is job costing has only one cost pool, including everything, including all indirect costs, and one homogeneous cost driver. So everything is blended. All the costs put in the pool and only one cost driver is used. So you have a predetermined manufacturing overhead rate for all the activities, for all the jobs. But activity-based costing, which is the one we're learning in this chapter, actually is more advanced. For instance, we look at all the possible activities, then we find their costs, the related costs. Then we also identify appropriate cost driver and their total estimate usage. Then we find cost allocation base rate and each activity. So like what we have here in this case, we have 3 activities. So we have 3 activity cost allocation base rate. So the first one, after calculation, you divide overhead cost by the usage of cost driver. Machine setup, we have $55 per setup. For machining, we have $150 per machine hour. For quality control, we have $60 per the quality control test. So we have all three activity cost allocation base rates ready, and if you would like to find the indirect costs allocated to any job, then you can apply those cost allocation base rates. Okay, so if I go back to our question, we see that the second part is complete the following job cost record for job 557. So which means we have to find the direct material cost, we have to find the direct labor cost, and also indirect cost. So first I'm going to take a look at direct material cost. That's pretty simple because the question has the following: direct materials requisitioned for job 557 totaled 1,250. So all I have to do is, okay, I'm going to record $1,250 under my direct materials. For direct labor, I have to look at first how many workers and how are they paid, and how many hours they have worked on these jobs. Okay, so in this case there are two workers working on this job 557, and John worked a total of 12 hours on the job, and John is paid $25. So I can multiply 12 hours by $25. That's the total the payment, okay, John received. For Allison, I have 4 hours, and Allison is paid $28 per hour, so that's going to be $28 multiplied by 4. Okay, so therefore I have a 25 times 12 plus 28 multiplied by 4. Okay, so I have direct materials and direct labor. I'm going to jump to this job record page. So direct materials is 1,250. For direct labor, I have John and also Allison, okay, sitting there. So now I'm going to go to the indirect cost part. So we have a manufacturing overhead. So go back to the question. There are three activities. So now our question is, okay, and each activity, how many units of cost driver that this job uses? Okay, uses. So if I look at job 557 for machine setup, this job needs 2 machine setups, and use the 4 machining hours, okay, machine hours, and use the 3 quality control tests. So therefore I'm going to have 2 setups, 4 machine hours, and 3 QC tests. So I have their cost allocation base rates. So therefore my next calculation for indirect costs is going to be, I have $55 per setup from question 1. I multiply that by 2 setups. And I have $150 per machine hour from question 1 as well. I multiplied by 4 machine hours. I have $60 per test from question 1 as well. I'm going to multiply that by 3 tests. So I can kind of figure out and each activity, so how much is the cost being allocated to this job according to the number of cost driver, the number of units of cost driver. So I have a 110 for machine setup, I have $600 for machining, I have $180 for QC test. So then I can add all these 3 activity costs to arrive at what is the indirect cost that should be allocated to this particular job 557. So the result is $890. So the total job cost is 1,250 plus 412 plus 890. So the total job cost is 2,552. Okay, so that's this question. And the next issue I want to talk about is the cost hierarchy. So this is kind of tricky here. So there are so many different activities. So sometimes you might be lucky you're given the cost drivers, but sometimes you have to find the cost drivers by yourself. So how to start with these cost drivers? Okay, where to start? So this cost hierarchy gives you some kind of idea that, okay, maybe that's the first thing we should try out. So there, we classify all these activities into 4 categories. The first one is the facility level activities. So which means you're going to consider this entire facility. Okay, and the product level, so individual product, and the batch level. So maybe you have 250 units in the batch, but you are going to look at how many batches instead of how many, basically how many products. Unit level activities, we're looking at maybe machine hours, maybe look at setups, maybe look at other things. So there are all kinds of different activities sitting here. So let's take a look at some of the examples here. So typically the CEO salary is facility level. If you want to say I'm going to include the CEO salary into my manufacturing cost, then I'm going to allocate some of the CEO salary to a particular job. So normally this is a facility level. This is facility level, okay. And engineering cost for new product. So this is a product level. Okay, order processing. So when you place an order, we're looking at a batch, instead of individual product. So that's going to be batch level. Then depreciation on factory. So once again, that's a facility level. So for facility level, sometimes people like to use direct labor hours. Okay, but that's a typical thing. For the product level, if you look at engineering costs for new product, you look at, okay, how many different products I have. So I'm going to probably average them out, look at how many hours or maybe the space these products design they take. And next one is direct labor cost. We know that direct labor cost is unit level, so we look at, okay, how many direct labor hours we're looking at. Okay, and the shipment of an order to a customer, definitely that's a batch level. Okay, you're not going to count how many I'm going to send to you, okay, whatever. So because sometimes you may send 100 or maybe 200 to different customers, you may end up with pretty much the same shipping cost, right? Or maybe a little bit higher or lower, but definitely we cannot always say that the shipping cost of 200 units is always twice as much as the one for the 100 units, right? You never can conclude that. Sometimes it may be the same. Okay, so we're looking at the batch level. So these are the issues about activity-based costing, and I hope this particular exercise can give you some insights and also help you understand the importance of activity-based costing. So next, I want to talk about objective 3. So let's understand the benefits and the limitations of activity-based costing and activity-based management system. So what is activity-based management system? So basically we try to use activity-based costing information to make decisions. So there are actually many decisions we can enjoy using activity-based costing information. For example, first one is pricing and product mix, and cost cutting, planning and control. So I'm going to go through each one with you in the next few slides. The first one, why we need to use ABC, or maybe let me put it this way, why the ABC is beneficial to pricing and product mix decisions. Okay, so sometimes when you come to the pricing decision, maybe activity-based costing can indeed show you actually maybe a more accurate total cost. Okay, because apparently activity-based costing really incorporate a lot of details of manufacturing process steps and also the procedures. So to me, it's going to be actually normally quite more accurate than the regular drop costing system. So because of that, you might be able to have a different or more accurate total cost to use, and based on that, you can look at price. You can look at your price. Okay, how much I should charge my customer per each. Okay, per each product. So that's actually the pricing decision can be more reasonable, or more accurate, because you don't want to price too high or too low. You want to make sure you're going to have the revenue cover your manufacturing cost, and also you have some profit margin, right? Profit margin. So next, you can look at all these products. So if you have a better or maybe more accurate ideas of your manufacturing cost, you can definitely get some ideas that which product is more profitable or less profitable. You can get actually more accurate information regarding the profitability of all your products. Okay, so then you can figure out how can I market these products. Okay, and next one is if you realize, okay, some products are not really profitable, So maybe I should use my resources more effectively. Maybe I should shift my product mix towards higher profitable products. Okay, so maybe I should stop maybe less profitable product lines. Okay, and use all the resources on my higher profitable products. So all these decisions are quite important unless you have a very accurate cost information, okay, manufacturing cost, total cost information. Okay, so that's kind of a motivation why the ABC costing information is helpful. Okay. So next one is the cutting cost. So when you have more activities, it's kind of interesting. You might be able to say, okay, what activities are value added? What activities are non-value added? Okay, so just give you kind of example here. Let's assume that you have a very good high quality products. So do you still want to do the quality control or testing? Because you have to understand that when you do the quality testing without that, you're going to sell the same products. So, but if you do the quality control test, of course there are some costs involved, but you cannot tell the customer, hey, because of that, then this this product has a higher value than without than the products without quality control testing. Okay, you cannot assume that. So basically, the quality control testing may be a non-value added activity. Okay, but there might be some value added activity. For instance, for example, you want to, you have a computer, and you want to install maybe more USB ports. Okay, more USB ports. Okay, because for example, if you have only 2 or 3 USB ports, may not be sufficient, and their customers prefer you to have 6 to 10 USB ports because they have so many USB devices. Okay, USB cabled devices. So from that perspective, you can add a few hardware components to your computer, and these components actually cost you something, and definitely they are value added activities, because now your computer is quite different from other products, other computers. Okay, so in that case, you can charge your customers more higher price. So adding some special hardware components to a computer definitely is considered a value-added activity. So now you're going to look at how many different value-added activities and non-value-added activities I have, and should I keep some of them or remove some of them. So these are the issues you definitely can pay attention to, and also figure out how can I cut these non-value-added activities, maybe add a few more value-added activities to differentiate my products, to make sure my product can be even can be sold better. Okay, can be sold better. The next is the planning and control decisions. So you need to create your budgets, and also you want to later, after in the end of fiscal year, you want to compare your budget with actual activities to see, okay, have I met my goals, and do I need to make adjustments, and what are the reasons causing all these differences and things like that. So when we talk about budgeting and also the variance analysis, we'll come back to the planning and control decisions again. So now the question becomes, should we really implement activity-based management? So you have to understand that there is no free lunch. So if you want to do activity-based costing, then definitely you have to have a more advanced information system, and maybe a lot of hardwares, and also you have to train your accountants and also the information scientists and things like that. So there are a lot of things you have to actually pay to acquire so that you can enjoy the ABC information. The question is, okay, so, will the benefits be more than the costs involved? Okay, so that's sort of idea. Will the benefits exceed the cost? So it really depends, but there are some issues you might want to pay attention to. That for companies in the competitive markets, so benefits normally are higher, higher, because you can have a more accurate product cost information with using activity-based costing, and also activity-based management can pinpoint cost savings opportunities. Okay, these are kind of ideas, and if the risk of cost distortion high, then benefit is also higher. So because you have many different products, many different types, amount of resources. So if you have the cost distortion, okay, high cost distortion in your manufacturing, in your companies, then you definitely want to make sure you can use the ABC to get to manage your resources in a better way, okay, so that you can have control your costs and improve your profitability. And also, when you have high indirect costs, that's really scary. And because when you have high indirect cost, let's say 80% of your costs actually are manufacturing overhead, and given the complexity of our manufacturing procedures, you definitely want to consider activity-based costing. And also, when you have very, very different products, okay, some high volume products, some low volume products, you also need to pay attention to the activity-based costing. Okay, so therefore there are a lot of scenarios, or maybe a lot of business operations. When we come to analyze these things, you have to consider, okay, maybe I should consider activity-based costing. So the benefits and the costs sometimes cannot be quantifiable, so that's going to be an issue here. So it's kind of difficult to give you very, very straightforward example here. Okay, but I can tell you that these are the these are the considerations when it comes to the decision. Hey, should I adopt activity-based costing or activity-based management system? So just mention a few things about the cost of adopting ABC. So generally lower that if you have accounting and information system expertise to develop the system, you have advanced information technology already in your system. Okay, normally it's lower. If you want to rebuild everything, of course it's going to be very expensive. And next, let's take a look at all the survey here. Okay, so most companies say that there was a cost, and not a cure-all, but helps managers understand the cost better, which is always true. Okay. So finally, just kind of give you some idea what are the signs that the old system may be distorting the cost. Okay, so let's assume that you're hired by a company and they want to do the cost analysis for them, and also maybe they ask you, hey, I need your consulting services. Okay, tell me something about my costs. So there are some signs you might want to pay attention to that. First of all, if managers they don't understand the cost of profits, then normally they don't pay attention. So I would consider that's a red flag. And the bids are always lost when expect to win, which means your competitors actually are doing much better job than you in terms of a costing analysis. Okay, and win bids expect to lose. That's also mean that okay, so you don't understand your costs. Okay, so a lot of surprises come to you. That's kind of issues. Kind of warning you, hey, I think if you look at all the industry competitors, I think I need to pay more attention to myself to understand the cost and the profitability. And sometimes competitors price similar products much higher or much lower, and if they are very good competitors, you definitely want to look into your business operations to think, why they do that? Why they price higher? Maybe I should do that because it seems like there are some issues going on there. Maybe I can price higher to have also large profit. If the price very low, maybe you have to think they may find a way to control their costs, to cut their costs, reduce their costs. Okay, so and if there is a diversified product line, the cost system may be outdated. So once again, all the signs, all the tips I show you here, you have to understand that all these are just suggestions. So in the practice, there are many more red flags. There are many more signs you need to pay attention to. Okay, to improve your cost analysis, to improve your costing systems. Okay, so this just gives you some idea. Okay, how that may be helpful when it comes to decision making. All right, so this is about this video lecture, and the objective 4 will be covered in the next video lecture. Thank you for your time.